Hello and welcome to The Consumer. Today I'll be talking about my consumption of the TV show Justified. This is a TV show that's set in Kentucky, takes place in Lexington and a bunch of other small areas within there about the criminal element in the small town. I'm going to start with the total score. This is a 95. This is one of the best TV shows for men that exist. I say for men because this has a very accurate representation of masculine men doing men things. You watch a lot of TV shows and you can kind of tell that the men were written by women, or at least they're feminized a little bit to appeal towards the feminine side of the spectrum. In this show, that is not the case. Every one of these people, I can relate to because I am quite similar to in their mannerisms, their behavior, and their actions. When they do something, it makes sense in my brain because I would probably do something similar, or at least I would like to think so. On that note, this is a 10 on the masculine scale. There are very few feminine parts in this, and the feminine parts that are in this, they're not women trying to be men, they're women being women. So when you see a powerful woman in this show, it's a powerful woman using femininity, not using masculinity. So you're not going to see a woman beat a man in a fist fight, but you will see a woman use her beauty and cunning to trick and manipulate, which women are very good at. On the serious light scale, this is a relatively serious show. I would put it at an 8 on the serious scale. It is mostly serialized, but there is a procedural element. The main character is a U.S. Marshal, and he does U.S. Marshal stuff, and so that is the procedural part. But for the most part, this is a serialized story of this U.S. Marshal and his criminal cohort or counterpart, Boyd Crowder. Probably one of the best acting performances in a TV show is Boyd Crowder. Very fantastic role. This is probably a 6 for ground for, I'll put it 50-50. A lot of the show you can watch in the background, but the performances are so good that I wouldn't recommend it. But a lot of it is dialogue driven until there's shootouts and action events, but a lot of it is dialogue driven, so you can watch this in the background. So if you want to play video games and have it on your second monitor, totally doable. It is 100% normal. This was created before the woke craze of 2012, and towards the later seasons, it did not adopt any of that woke ideology. I would say this is neither pretentious or woke, so I'm just going to put that right in the middle. Some of the feels of this show, you're going to get a sense of Justice. Obviously, he's a U.S. Marshal, and Justice and obviously being justified in killing is a big part of the show. It is a very power and manly and masculine show. There is a lot of drama, so TNT, they know drama, and ultimately it is highly satisfying. I would say there is nothing like this TV show. Maybe like Deadwood, but I haven't seen all of Deadwood. So I'm just going to say if I were to force my hand on similar stuff, it would be Yellowstone and Longmire. But Yellowstone and Longmire are more like Yellowstone's more about a country rancher. Longmire is about a sheriff in like Native American country. Justified is more about hillbilly crackheads and the criminal element. And as for lows of the show, I would say there's only one. The pacing in the later episodes is a little off. Towards the end of the TV show, it gets a little slower, a little more drawn. I don't know. It kind of shifts. You feel it in like season 5. There's kind of a shift because Boyd Crowder starts to work with people outside of Kentucky. They end up going to Mexico, and the pacing is just a little different. It does not affect the overall quality of the series much at all. As I was talking about, some of the highs is accurate male representation. I think Boyd Crowder's character as a criminal, having known several criminals, is pretty spectacular. Obviously, it's over realized and hyped up a little bit, but a lot of his actions are actually quite realistic. Characters in this show is what makes this show. All the characters are good, from the U.S. Marshal to Boyd Crowder to Ava Crowder to the white trash families. I come from a small town, and in small towns, criminal element does get relegated to families. Some families are in charge of the dope. Some families are in charge of the meth. Some family are in charge of the guns. I was kind of born and raised in a small town, and my dad was one of the gun dealers in that small town for a long time until he sold his shop up. And I can relate to the show very much. There is a realism of setting. This takes place in Kentucky, and you can tell it feels like it takes place in a real setting. I don't know how they did it. I don't know if these are like based on true stories in Kentucky, but it feels like a real place. It does not feel like some Hollywood produced idea of a place. It actually exists. Boyd fucking Crowder. This is probably, him alone is enough reason to watch this show. The character who plays Boyd Crowder does a fantastic job. He is in a few other things like Hateful Eight and Vice Principals. I think his name's like Terry Gibbon or Gibbon something. I'm bad with names, but he is a fantastic actor. And some of the dialogue in this movie is fantastic. Boyd Crowder, one of Boyd Crowder's final scenes is his famous outlaw scene. He's talking to a dude in a truck, and he explains that he's an outlaw, and it's fantastic. So this is a highly recommended consumable product. I say consume it immediately if you have not seen this. Total Score 95, one of the best TV shows on television, period.